Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We called for this press conference regarding a matter that was presented before the Parliament this afternoon at the end of all the members giving their responses to His Excellency the President's opening of Parliament speech. And this matter is to do with the closed session of Parliament that was held last month. Today, of course, we have asked the Honourable Speaker of House to release all the Hansard reports from that closed sitting day, because that was the basis on which we had the closed sitting of Parliament, that it be recorded but it not be released until such time as the bond that we wanted to issue did get issued. We had explained in Parliament. I'd like to do that now in very simple terms to the media, because you have a very pivotal role in disseminating this information, because of the fact that it has been very unfortunately and in a very unpatriotic manner given a lot of misinformation. Ladies and gentlemen, as you know, in 2006 the SDL government issued bonds through the global market using JP Morgan, and that was a bond of US $150 million. In 2011, the government rolled over those bonds, in other words, paid it off by taking out another set of bonds with an additional $100 million bond. So in other words, we issued bonds of $250 million. The bonds of $250 million that was issued in 2011, 150 was of course to pay the bond that was taken out by the SDL government, and the additional $100 million was to carry out a lot of the infrastructure work that was being carried out by the Bainimarama government. The bond generally has a life of 5 years. And to explain to some of you who may not know what a bond is a form of debt, similar to like an IOU. When you purchase a bond, you are lending money to a government, municipality or corporation or other entity known as the issuer. In return for that money, the issuer provides you with a bond in which it promises to pay you a specified rate of interest during the life of the bond. It's like an IOU. It promised to pay a specified rate of interest during the life of the bond and to repay the face value of that bond, which is the principal, when it matures or comes due. The regular interest payments, which are generally 6 months, are known as what we call the coupon payments. Generally, when people say coupon, they mean interest. I know many people don't understand. We're trying to help you understand. We have prepared for you a frequently asked questions sheet. So it will also help you understand what a bond is and what are the issues related to that, and we'll disseminate that to you afterwards. So the 2011 bond, as I was saying, was going to mature in 5 years' time, which is March of next year. However, given the fact that the Fijian economy has done really well since 2011, and the fact that in 2011 there was a global financial crisis, the government decided to go into the bond market much earlier. Now, the interest rate or the coupon when the 2006 bonds were issued under the SDL government for US $150 million was 6.875%. In 2011, the coupon rate or interest rate was 9%. Given the global financial crisis, the volatility in the market, you had economies like Spain, etc., crumbling around the ears, and other countries. So therefore, the market always reacts to what is happening within, the specified regional markets and overall in the global market. So because we had a sense, and a lot of investors in the bond market had responded to us and said, look, you will probably get a much better pricing if you went earlier into the market. So government then made a call with the assistance of the RBF. We have the Deputy Governor here with us. With the assistance of the RBF and of course our own assessment through the Ministry of Finance. You have the Acting PS of Finance over here with us too. decided to go into the market earlier. So we did what we wanted to do, which was the bonds that were issued at 9%, to buy them back and issue a new set of bonds at what was hoped for at cheaper price, cheaper interest rate. However, in order for you to do that, the market must not know you're going to do that, because people then start speculating. They say, oh, this guy wants to sell his bond. Let's all get together and hike up the price. That's what they do. So, because the government wanted to adhere to all the procedures and we wanted to get parliamentary approval for it, we, as allowed for under the standing orders, can ask the Speaker to have a closed session of Parliament to get parliamentary approval, but to have a closed session so that it doesn't get reported in the papers, in the media. Because as soon as it would have been reported, people in Singapore and Hong Kong and USA and EU would have known that we were about to do this, so they could all get together and we would not get a good pricing. That was the sole purpose of having a closed session of Parliament. That is precisely the reason why we did that. And in asking for that closed session, we had said that as soon as the bond is issued, as soon as the pricing is fixed, everything that had been recorded, everything that had been said for the day, hence our reporters were still there, it could be revealed. And this is precisely what we asked the Honourable Speaker this afternoon, early this afternoon, when we said the bond was issued and I had issued a statement on it. We said, please release the documentation, the Hansard records. And this is what we are telling you here today. So, what is the story? The upshot of it: $243.15 million of the $250 million US bond, people came back to that value to say, look, we'll sell back, you issue us the new bonds at the interest rate of 6.625%. The cheapest coupon rate, the cheapest interest rate that Fiji has ever had in the global bond market. 6.625%. By having this prepayment, we have saved 9 million Fijian dollars. That's what we have saved by going to the market early. Now, what we have also done, as was stated to Parliament, we had a $250 million debt. We said we'll only raise $200 million. Why? Because the government over the past few years has been putting aside, if you like, a savings account, what we call the sinking fund, in US dollars, just for a rainy day. We had about 83 million US dollars in that. So we used $50 million from that to pay off $50 million of the $250 million that was maturing next year. So overall, the debt has decreased from $250 million to $200 million, which also means that we went to the global bond with a lower interest rate. We have now saved in the next 5 years Fijian $100 million. That's precisely what we have saved, about $100 million. By going into the market early, by having the buyback, and by having $50 million paid off, we've saved 100 million Fijian dollars. 100 million Fijian dollars in a period of 5 years is $20 million Fijian a year. And that's a lot of money. This is why I was quite astounded today when in Parliament, when I raised this issue, because when we had the closed session in Parliament, and indeed in the Fiji Times article, which I have here with me, dated September the 12th, in which you had an article by the leader of National Federation Party claiming to write a piece on the economy. He wrote, and I quote, in 2006, under the SDL government, the global bond of US $150 million, Fijian $326 million, was a standby facility at 6% interest. Wrong on two accounts. It was not a standby facility. Anybody who knows about the bond market knows you don't go into the bond market to say, let's have a standby facility, when we need it, we'll come to you. Nobody does that. To prove that, I have a letter here, signed by the former Minister for Finance in 2006, where he says the closing certificate of the issuer, where he's actually certifying that they're issuing $150 million worth of bond at the rate of 6.875%. Here's the prospectus by JP Morgan, who they used. We've used ANZ, they used JP Morgan. This is what confirms that it was not a standby facility. So he's wrong on the first point. Second point, he says it was a rate of 6%. When the certification by the former Minister of Finance shows it was a rate of 6.875%. And today in Parliament, when we mention the rate of 6% versus the 6.875%, he remarked words to the effect, oh, it's thereabouts. Thereabouts in 0.875% is about $1 million on the face of it up front. So, as a shadow Minister for Finance, to say that there is not much difference between 6% and 6.875%, it goes to show you the credibility of his utterances and his writings in the paper. It obviously cannot be relied upon because it's factually incorrect. So, ladies and gentlemen, what we wanted to also tell you today, that the bond has been issued. We have a coupon rate of 6.625%, which is much lower even than what it was in 2006. The Hansard, the other point that I wanted to make also, that we met over 50 investors and the response we received was overwhelming. In fact, many of the investors said to us, why aren't we borrowing $500 million? The reason why they were saying $500 million was because that's the industry benchmark. And when you hit that amount, you get very good interest rates. And they said because the Fijian story is a very good story. Because the economy is doing really well, the reforms are going well, and that the trajectory is quite good. So because of that, they were saying to us, why don't you go for the $500 million benchmark? We said, no, we've given a commitment, we'll only raise $200 million. But that just goes to show the confidence. Just before coming here, I was also interviewed by Bloomberg from Singapore. And they're looking at writing an article on Fiji because of the fact that it has been a very good coupon rate that has been issued. Notwithstanding the fact that there is some volatility in the market. In Europe, I understand there's been recently, in the past 24 hours or so, some issue about Volkswagen, that is a listed company, sent some jitters through the market. And also there has obviously a lot of speculation given what is happening in China. Notwithstanding that, the bond and the coupon rates that we have received has been very, very good. So we expect a lot more positive publicity out of this. Ladies and gentlemen, it's good to have what we call a spread portfolio. You don't want to borrow all your money from one source. When you have a spread in your portfolio, you spread your risk. You also are able to at the same time become more of a price taker or price giver in this sense, not a price taker. You become more of a price giver, so you are able to dictate some more rates. But if you only depend on one or two organizations, then your ability to negotiate is reduced. In the same way, if you look at the tourism market, what we are trying to do is get tourists from many different countries, not just depend on one or two countries. Because if that country or those countries don't do well, it has an impact, negative impact on your tourism arrivals. So the idea is to always spread your risk. And this is precisely what we're doing. We're trying to spread our debt risk. What is also very positive, as we highlighted to Parliament today, is that our debt to GDP ratio is set to reduce. Again, we are estimating at this stage by about another % by the end of this year. So overall our targets are being met, but any further elaboration on the economy you'll hear from us when we issue the budget. but at this stage I'd like to tell you as to why we had the closed session. It is very, very unfortunate, as we said in Parliament today, that notwithstanding the fact that we had asked Parliament and we had asked for a bipartisan approach to ensure that whatever is discussed in Parliament does not get out of Parliament, because it could have an impact on our pricing. When it impacts on your pricing, it means that you're creating a higher debt level for the country, and so therefore it must be a bipartisan approach. Notwithstanding that, we are told, well, not we are told, firstly, we had a member of the opposition the very next day who tried to talk about the subject and had to be stopped, and everybody started banging the tables, as you may remember. We also then subsequently have been informed that some recordings of the proceedings that was held in the closed Parliament session was found in some blogs, that the actual the goings on, the discussions were also on people's Facebook pages, mainly people who support the opposition parties. It is most unfortunate when we had very clearly explained that all records will be made available, and that the only reason to have a closed session of Parliament was so that we could get a good pricing for our debt. Despite that, we see this type of shenanigans taking place. Most unfortunate. But thankfully, as I said in Parliament, these blogs, these Facebook pages, these websites did not dampen or have a negative impact on the market. Thank God. Because it could have been a different story if we had this all leaked out beforehand. So I'd like to once again acknowledge publicly and thank the Honourable Speaker for allowing us to have this enclosed session and having the wisdom to understand the ramifications of it for Fiji. I really would like to publicly say that, and I really want to thank her for that. I would also like to thank the ANZ team that did the issue for us. That were the agents. I've got some interesting statistics on it actually, and I know some people are also making a big deal about ANZ helping us with this bond. You know, in 2006, SDL government used JP Morgan, as I highlighted. JP Morgan charged a commission of 0.85%, and that commission is based on the bond, the issue that you raised, the amount of money that you raised. And so 0.85% of US $150 million was US $1.274 million. This time around, we used ANZ, and their rate was 0.55%. So even on a $200 million bond issue, the amount of money that ANZ received was still less, or $1.1 million, was still less than what JP Morgan had received. So on all fronts, this entire exercise has been a financial benefit for Fiji. Through the commission rates charge, the fact that we went into the bond market early, and the fact that we had the buyback, all of this has actually produced a very significant amount of savings for Fiji, and indeed has put us on the international platform on a very, very good footing. I'd like to thank the Deputy Governor of the Reserve Bank and his team member, Esala, who went with us on the roadshow. I'd like to thank the Permanent Secretary for Finance, who's not here with us today, but nonetheless the Acting Permanent Secretary and his team who did the work, Sekili and also Pankaj, both from our debt unit, from Ministry of Finance, who also went on the roadshow. And of course we had the ANZ team that went with us. We went on a 3-city roadshow. We went to Singapore, Hong Kong. Essentially in Hong Kong we were there for 24 hours, if that. In London we were there for only 12 hours. We arrived at 6 AM in the morning, had a shower, changed, had our first meeting at 9 o'clock. And then we went for the airport at 6 PM in the evening. So this is the roadshow that we did go on. and it's proven to be a very fruitful roadshow. I'd like to thank all the parties that have been involved. I'd like to also request the media to please educate the public about this particular matter, not just about why we had the closed session, but also I think many of you don't know what a bond is or fully understand what it is. There's nothing to be ashamed of. So we are here to provide you with the frequently asked questions about bonds. We can also give you a very simple term about what I said about what the bond was, like an IOU, and we look forward to you further giving out this information. Thank you very much.